Hey everybody, welcome back to the video. So today we're going to be learning about stay hooks in ReactJS. So let's get started. So basically stay hooks, specifically the useState hook, lets you add or create React state to the functional components. Normally this thing was not available before this hooks was introduced for functional components. You can only do that in class components. And it was basically only available in class components. And that's basically what you have to learn about stay hooks. I mean, it's pretty short to understand and it's pretty easy too. And let me go ahead and delete that since we don't need it. And these are the basically two things you need to create the stay hooks. So the first thing, you gotta import the useState from React, and after that you can have something like this thing right here. So this is kind of like defining a variable normally in React.js or normal in JavaScript. So if you observe that, it's kind of like creating a new variable or normal variable. But instead what we can do is basically this. I'm just gonna explain what is happening right here. So it's gonna have a constant saying state, which is gonna get our current state or the specific state we are in, or it's gonna return the current state basically. And the set state is basically gonna update the state, or if you pass something, it's basically gonna update the state. That's pretty much it about it. And the use state is basically gonna set the initial state. For this is basically using for the stay hook. And I'm just gonna keep this so that you guys can see. And yeah, so let me go ahead and create a functional component since we're talking about functional components. And of course you can use this in class components too, but I'm gonna be just showing you guys in functional components. So I'm just gonna have this, my first example, to be as a counter. So this basically is gonna increase and decrease at the same time. So you can decrease or increase that specific thing. And let's go ahead and do right here. So first, let's go ahead and import this. I forgot to do that. Let me go ahead and import the useState. Let's go ahead and do useState. There we go. So we imported useState, and now what we can do is we can have our state. But instead, you can name this anything you want. So I'm just gonna first just name it as count, and the next thing to be as, let's say, to be set count. And you can do that right there. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have an useState, or I have a useState right here, and inside this I'm just gonna have my initial value to be 0. Basically we're gonna be starting from 0. And now I'm gonna have an arrow function. So for that I'm gonna have const, and I'm gonna have I'm gonna have inc and dec. Basically it's gonna increase and decrease this arrow function, kind of like updating. So yeah, or let's just name it to update count. And that's pretty basic. And now I'm gonna have something like this. Let's go ahead and do that, an arrow function. And that's pretty much it about updated count. And now in here what we can do is we can do set count right there. And in this set count you can set the specific count, but instead, since we are not learning about that, we can do it automatically or dynamically on our own. So we can do that on our own, not dynamically. That was a wrong word there. So let's go ahead and do return. We're gonna return, and now I'm gonna return the count first. So we're gonna have, and let's say nh2, I guess, nh2, and this is gonna get our count. So normally this is not how you access the count. Do this just like that, and this is how you access the count right there. So this is basically a text, and there we go. So using these curly braces you can access the specific thing. So I'm just gonna access the count for me, and yeah. And now what I'm gonna do is I can do it on my own, not dynamically or automatic, but I can do it on my own, so it's not dynamic. So what we can do is we can have something like this. So we can have a button. And by the way, I have to include this in a div tag or a fragment, so I'm just gonna put a fragment right there so that it doesn't give us any error. And let me go ahead and do this. So yeah, and now inside this I'm just gonna say increase. So this button is basically gonna increase the count and increase, and this is gonna be an on click so that we can call it or so. On click. And now normally if you want to have an on click you gotta do something right here, but instead we can perform it right here and have my distinct arrow function, because we gotta have an event handler. Let's go ahead and use arrow function for that. And now we can basically change our set count. Let's go ahead and get our set count right there, and then we can increase it. Let's go ahead and do count, plus 1. This count right here, this count plus 1, it's gonna be 1. You can increase it by 2 or so, it really doesn't matter. And let me go ahead and decrease at the same time too. Let's go ahead and create a button for decrease, and you can decrease for the same thing. You can decrease how much ever you want, and it's the same thing. You can just use set count. So if you observe, we didn't use any function right here. So normally we could use a function, and yeah, you could do that too. And these are basically increase and decrease, so using this counter thingy. So now let's go ahead and export this so that we can use it elsewhere. Export default and counter, and there we go. So now we can import it in our app.js. There we go. And I'm also gonna mention the type file .jsx, and inside this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have my counter, and there we go. So we have our counter done right there. So let me go ahead and reload this, and I have my console so that we can see our errors. And so yeah, and count is, for now it's 0, is 0 right there, but if I increase, it's gonna be 1. If I increase again, it's gonna be 2, but if I decrease, it's gonna be 1 back again, and 0. And you can decrease it to -1, -2 too. I can increase it how much ever I want, so I can do that, and I can do this. So you can do anything you want. You can increase or decrease with these. So that's like a counter right there. And now let's go ahead and see another example using onClick right here. And this is basically gonna display the two different texts but using the same onClick. So yeah, we can do that too. Let me go ahead and delete the text, or we actually can keep this. So let me go ahead and keep this, but I'm gonna change the name to text changer, or let's remove the C capital right there. And now I can just go ahead and export this again. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have the same thing, except I'm gonna change the names for this. Text, and this is gonna be set text, and let me keep that in capital. And useState, the text is gonna be, for now it's gonna be a hello text, or there we go. And now inside here, what we can do is we can have an arrow function. So I'm gonna say const update text, and equals, we can have an arrow function as I said, and there we go. So now inside it, we can modify in here. So since we want the text to be like the user or dynamic or so, what we can do is, it's not that of a dynamic, but it's kind of a dynamic too. So we can have a variable. So I'm just gonna put it txt, basically the text, and I'm gonna say the text right there. And that's how you can do this. And now we are basically setting the text or updating the text right there. And now what we can do is we can just remove this count and just say the text to be the text we have right here. And I hope you guys you understand. I'm basically just changing the name and passing these parameters so that I can just change the text. So if you guys don't understand, I'm just gonna explain it once again after we are done with this. So I'm gonna have 2 buttons as usual, and you can have 1 too. It doesn't really matter, but I'm just gonna have 2. So now what we can do is we need set text, but since we have an arrow function and everything and done, we don't need set these. So we can do update count, or update text for us. I forgot, it's update text. And now we can pass, let's just say hello world. This text is gonna be hello world text, and there we go. So now we can copy this and paste it for all these right here. Let me go ahead and paste for this, and this is not gonna be hello world, it's gonna be hello 123, hello 123 text, and there we go. So these are the 2 buttons. But if you need default, what you can do is you can copy another, or basically you can create another button right here. Let me go ahead and create, and this is gonna be the default text. Default, I'm gonna have a parenthesis saying what type of text it is. It is just gonna be hello, or we don't need the parentheses. If you don't want, let's go ahead and remove that since we don't need it. And this is gonna be just hello, or default, since it's default right there. And yeah, so I'm gonna explain what is happening right there. So if you guys understand, we're importing the useState, and we're gonna have a function named text changer, or component basically. and we're gonna have this. So this is gonna get the current state, and this is gonna set the state or update it, and this is initializing it, or the starting what we are starting with. We're gonna start off with hello, and we're gonna have an arrow function saying update text, and then we can have an arrow function text right there, and then we can have an arrow function, and this is gonna be setting the text to be this parameter right there, and we're basically passing a parameter, and this is the thing we're gonna pass: hello world, hello 123, and so. And I'm gonna go back to the return statements. Since we have a lot of tags, we cannot do that. We can use a fragment so that we can remove the tags, or we can have multiple tags right there. And h2, this is basically gonna show the correct text, or the text we have. This is a text, and the button is basically just gonna this button is basically gonna display this hello world, and this button is basically gonna display hello 123, and this button is just gonna display the default, which is hello, or the thing we are starting with, and we are exporting it at the end. And now we can import it right here, text changer. Let me go ahead and remove this since it's not giving us. Import text changer right there from test.jsx. And now what we can do is we can have our text changer right there. And let me just type this, it's not working. And there we go. So we have our text changer done right there. Text changer, it's working. Now what we can do is we can go right here, and our console, there are no errors, so we can remove that. And if you want, I can reload this too. So there we go, no errors. So we are starting off with hello text. So if I click hello world text, it changed us to hello world. If you want, I'm gonna go back to default hello, and I'm gonna click this again. There we go, it changes. And hello 123, if I click this, it does work. Hello 123. So while I'm clicking, I'm gonna show you if there's an error or so. So let me go ahead and go default. So default, no error. Hello 123, no error. Hello text, no error, and we can set anything you want. So that's basically of how you can these state hooks work. And so that's it for today's video. See you in the next video. Until then, bye bye.